Welcome to Learning with UNP. In this session of Python for Data Science, we are going to understand about functions with arguments. That includes introduction to arguments, what are default arguments, what are variable length arguments, and finally, what are keyword arguments. Let's begin with understanding about arguments. An argument is a value that is passed to a function when it is called. Arguments are specified after the function name inside the parenthesis. Fundamentally, parameters are the variables inside a function's parenthesis. Arguments provide values for those parameters. You can pass as many as arguments as you want, separated by commas. Here is the syntax of it. Diff function name with argument 1, argument 2, include the code block and return the result. What this part of code does is it declares a function with arguments and returns the result after executing the code block. Let's look at the pseudocode representation of it. Step 1. Define a function with required arguments. Means create a function that needs specific inputs. Step 2. Use the arguments within the function. Means use those inputs inside the function. Step 3. Call the function with the required arguments. Means call the function and give it the necessary inputs. Step 4. The function executes with the provided arguments and returns a result. Means the function runs with those inputs and gives back an output. Here is an example demonstrating function definition and function call with specific arguments. We create a function named greet that takes two inputs, name and age. Inside the function, we print a message using these inputs. We are calling the function greet with Alice and 30 as inputs. Let's execute this and check. This function runs and it is printing, hello, my name is Alice and I am 30 years old. Now let's look at default arguments. A default argument is a parameter that assumes a default value if a value is not provided in the function call for that argument. Default arguments are specified after the function name inside the parenthesis. Default arguments are values that are provided while defining functions. Default arguments become optional during the function calls. Here is the syntax of it. Def function name with argument 1, argument 2 as default value, include the code block and return the result. What this code does is it defines a function in Python called function name. It takes two arguments, argument 1 and argument 2, where argument 2 has a default value. Inside the function, there is a block of code to perform operations and it returns a result. Now, let's look at the pseudocode representation of it. Step 1. Define a function with one or more arguments having default values. Means create a function with some inputs set to default values. Step 2. Use the arguments within the function. Means use these inputs within the function's code. Step 3. Call the function with or without the arguments that have default values. Means call the function optionally providing specific values for those inputs. Step 4. The function uses provided arguments or default values if not provided and returns a result. Means the function runs using given values if provided or defaults it not and gives back the result. Here is an example demonstrating default arguments. First, it defines a function named greet with two parameters, name and age. The age parameter has a default value of 25. Inside the function, it prints a message using the provided name and age arguments. Greet Bobby of 40 calls the greet function with Bobby as name and 40 as age. Here in greet of Indu, the greet function is called with only Indu as name, so it uses the default value 25 for age. Let's execute and check for the output. Here, the output lines are printed based on the function calls. The first one uses provided arguments, while the second one uses the default value for age. The output for first one is, hello, my name is Bobby and I am 40 years old, whereas the output for second one is, Hello, my name is Indu and I am 25 years old. Here, the age is equal to 25 has been taken as the default value. Now, let's move on to understanding variable length arguments. Variable length arguments allow a function to accept an arbitrary number of arguments. It is useful when you do not know beforehand how many arguments might be passed to the function. Variable length arguments, also called as var args, are a way to pass a variable number of arguments to a function. This means that you can pass any number of arguments to a function and the function will handle them all. There are two types of variable length arguments. They are star args, which is also called as star args for non-keyword arguments, and double star kwargs, which is also called as double star quargs or star star quarks for keyword arguments. Here is the syntax for star args. Define function name of star args, include the code block and return the result. What this code does is it can receive multiple arguments using the star symbol before the parameter name args. The function name is the name of the function and you can write the code inside the function block. The function will return a result after executing the code. You all might think that what is the use of putting star? Star means it can receive multiple arguments. Now let's look at the pseudocode representation of it. Step 1. Define a function with star args to accept variable number of non-keyword arguments. Means define a function with star args parameter to accept any number of non-keyword arguments. Step 2. Use args within the function to process the arguments. Means inside the function, process these arguments using args. Step 3. Call the function with any number of non-keyword arguments. Means call the function which has any number of non-keyword arguments. Step 4. The function executes using the provided arguments and returns a result. Means the function runs using the provided arguments and returns a result. Here is an example demonstrating variable length arguments with star args. The first line defines a function named some numbers with star args as a parameter which allows it to accept any number of non-keyword arguments. Inside the function, it calculates the sum of all the arguments passed using the built-in sum function. The print statement prints the output. Here, the sum numbers function is called with multiple arguments. Upon execution, the function adds up all the provided arguments and prints the sum. Let's execute and check. Sum 85 is printed, showing the sum of all the numbers provided. Now, here is a syntax for double star quarks, which is the second type of variable length argument. Def function name with double star quarks, include the code block and return the result. What this part of code does is, it is a Python function that can accept multiple keyword arguments. You can write code inside the function to do anything you want with these arguments. The function will return a result based on the operations you performed on the keyword arguments. Now let's look at the pseudocode representation of it. Step 1. Define a function with double star quarks to accept variable number of keyword arguments. Means it defines a function with double star quarks parameter to accept any number of keyword arguments. Step 2. Use quarks within the function to process the arguments. Means inside the function utilize quarks to process these keyword arguments. Step 4. Call the function with any number of keyword arguments. Means call the function which can take any number of keyword arguments. Step 4. The function executes using the provided arguments and returns a result. Means the function runs using the provided keyword arguments and returns a result. Here is an example demonstrating variable length argument with double star quarks. The first line defines a function named printinfo with double star quarks as a parameter, enabling it to accept any number of keyword arguments. Inside the function, it iterates over the items in quarks, printing each key value pair. The function printinfo is called with multiple keyword arguments. Let's execute and check. This output as name Tej, age 32, city New York displays each keyword argument along with its corresponding value mentioned here. Finally, let's look at keyword arguments. Keyword arguments are passed to a function by explicitly mentioning the parameter names along with their values. This allows you to skip some arguments or place them out of the order because the Python interpreter is able to use these keywords provided to match the value with the parameters. Keyword arguments or named arguments are the values that, when passed into a function, are identifiable by specific parameter names. Here is the syntax of keyword argument. Def function name with two arguments, include the code block and return the result. What this part of code does is it has a Python function name that takes two arguments, argument 1, argument 2. Within the function, there is a code block that performs some operations on the arguments provided. At the end of the function, it returns a result. Let's now look at the pseudocode representation of it. Step 1. Define a function with required arguments. Means create a function with specific inputs required. Step 2. Use the arguments within the function. Means inside the function, utilize these inputs as needed. Step 3. Call the function with keyword arguments. Means call the function providing inputs using keywords. Step 4. The function executes using the provided keyword arguments and returns a result. Means the function operates using the given keyword arguments and provides a result. Finally, let's look at an example demonstrating keyword argument. The first line defines a function named greet with two required parameters, name and age. Inside the function, it prints a message using the provided name and age arguments. The function is called with keyword arguments, specifying the parameter names. Let's execute this. Here, the function greet is called with keyword arguments specifying the parameter names, age as 28 and name as Eva. This output, which is hello, my name is Eva and I am 28 years old, reflects the provided keyword arguments, ensuring that they match the parameter names correctly. This is all about today's lecture. See you in the next lecture. Thank you.